do it.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We will call the meeting of the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee to order. I will take the roll call so we can establish a quorum. Max Giardulo.
Present.
Tasia Gaspard, I'm so sorry, Tasia.
Present.
Elizabeth Harvey.
Present.
Liz Holman.
Present.
Sabrina Mays. Ellen Lee is present, and Monique Blossom is not here. Monique is in Baton Rouge continuing the good fight for affordable housing and those who require the use of it. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of our meeting from April 28th, 2026. Those minutes, advisory council members, were included in your packet. They've also been posted to the HTF website.
I second.
All right. We have a call for a motion by the chair and a second by Maxwell to approve the minutes of the April 28th, 2026 meeting. Any questions about the minutes? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you so much. I want to touch on a report that is due to the council by the ordinance, the HTF ordinance. We're required to provide, is it actually going to semi-annual or quarterly reports?
Quarterly, that's right. Quarterly
reports to the city council. There was a report that would have been due at the beginning of the April, but the members of the advisory council had not yet been appointed at that time, and so there was not a report that's going to be provided to meet that deadline. We do anticipate providing a report to the council. It is due by July 9th of this year, and so there will be a report that will be provided. We will share it publicly, and it's going to be an update and talk about progress and implementation. So that will be provided. We just wanted to let everyone know that the report is going to be prepared and provided in time for the next due point.
Just a little bit of context there too. That report's not likely to actually include much information because we don't anticipate, we mentioned this at the last meeting, but the bonds will be sold in mid-June, right? So that money will hopefully just be moving to the administrators. So there's really not much to track yet. So it'll be a sort of a formal report, but there's not going to be much in it. So we just wanted to let you know it's coming.
Thank you, Max. Any questions about our report? Any public comments about our report? We're checking online, and welcome to those who are joining us online. All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the resolution for the use of bond funds, affordable housing bond funds. At our last meeting, we received a proposal from the administration, from the Office of Community Development, for the use of $45 million of affordable housing bond funds that was approved by voters in 2025. This approval allows the city to sell $45 million worth of affordable housing bond funds in total of the other, it's a set aside of a larger bond issuance. The city is proposing that in 2026, that $32 million of those bond funds be sold, that funding be made available for various affordable housing projects. The city additionally had identified a little over $4 million in other bond funds that had been the result of recaptured projects or funding that had not been allocated. So that made for 2026 a total of $36 million and $65,000 available to support affordable housing projects. Of that $36 million that's available, the proposed uses of it are $16 million to meet the Housing Trust Fund obligation of the amount of 2% equivalency of the general fund. So that's $16 million for that. And then the remainder of that, so approximately $20 million, would be allocated to support 6 multifamily rental projects, many of which are waiting on financing to come to fruition so that they can go to closing, and that would provide in excess of 300 affordable housing units, closer to 372 affordable housing units. That is to the tune of almost $20 million, $19,806,000. That would leave a small balance for this year of $259,000 if we followed that plan. So then, remember, then there was $45 million that was available to sell. 32 would be sold this year. The remaining $13 million of bond availability would be sold in 2027. That $13 million, along with $3 million of general fund revenue or other sources of funding that the administration has to identify to meet the obligation, would be used to meet the Housing Trust Fund obligation of, again, this 2%, so $16 million. The administration is asking that of the $16 million, this is in 2027, remember, of the $16 million that is being provided to the Housing Trust Fund, that the advisory committee recommend to the City Council that about almost $10.5 million of that be used to complete these 6 multifamily projects. So in other words, there's a portion of the funding, a majority of the funding that would be provided through bond sales in 2026, and then the balance would be provided through bond funds through the Housing Trust Fund in 2027. If that happens, then there would be approximately $5.5 million remaining for the advisory committee to recommend allocations across various programs for the City Council to vote on. I know that was a lot, but we all discussed this at our last meeting, and I know that, you know, in some individual conversations where we're all getting it straight in our own heads, that, you know, I think that we all understand where we are on the use of these funds. There is a resolution that was posted to the HTF website that basically goes through all of what I just said, but puts it in a more formal format. And so we would be entertaining a motion. We will have time for public comment, but we want to entertain the motion, get it a second so that we can begin to have any discussion about it. So at this point, there is a motion by Max Giardulo, Monique Blossom, and Ellen Lee, the current and one of the immediate past chairs of the trust fund, to support this proposal that the administration presented to us at our last meeting. Can I get a second for the resolution so that we can begin to have any discussion?
I'll second that, or whoever.
All right. I'll put Elizabeth, and then we can figure out which one of you. Say that again?
Said I'll third it, so either one.
All right, we got you. Thank you so much. We have a motion and a second. We want to open the floor up now for any public comment. We did receive some comment cards, and we will thank you.
First public comment card is from Stephen Kennedy. And remind folks you have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, committee members. It's good to see you all. My name is Stephen Kennedy, and I'm here on behalf of Barone Lofts, the developer for the project. This is a project I've been working on for many, many years. Unfortunately and fortunately, hit some roadblocks. We were set to close last year, December 23rd, but then the city financial crisis happened, and so our closing was delayed. And so I've been working closely with Jeff and his team at OCD, and appreciate them for honoring the commitment for this project. This is truly a public-private partnership, and very different partners. And Finance New Orleans is a partner, the Housing Authority is a partner, the City of New Orleans is a partner, and also tax credit investors for this project. So I'm just here to support, this resolution and being able to answer any questions that you all may have, because once again, this is a true public-private partnership, and they have several multiplier effects from this project in regards to being an emerging minority developer, but also just a procurement opportunity, a small business opportunity that's being offered, on this project with minority and women-owned businesses, and also it's truly sustainable as well, and great close to public transportation. So I'm just here to support OCD recommendation on the use of this bond funds on this resolution and answer any question that you all may have for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nicole Barnes.
We just got some other cards.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking in opposition to what I think is the proposal, what I understand to be the proposal in number 3 for the resolution to fund the Housing Trust Fund not to the level that it's supposed to be funded at, in accordance with what was passed by the voters in November 2024. What was passed was that the Housing Trust Fund was supposed to be funded at a level of 2% of the general fund every year. This proposal seems to skip a year because we're getting started late because of the bond financing source of the funds. That creates all sorts of problems. The construct of the Housing Trust Fund was to ensure that funds were available so that developers can plan accordingly, so that we don't have this scarcity model where you have projects that aren't ready to build right now, but need funding, and they're sucking up funding and then waiting to be able to have those funds available to when they get ready to break ground in 2 years or so. So it was very intentional and thought out by people who actually do this work every day, and that's the reason why it needed to be funded every year. This proposal, as it reads and as explained, violates what was supposed to happen in accordance with what was passed by the voters. The money is supposed to be put there every year, not every other year, not a half a year. It's supposed to be there every year. So if there is, I guess my question is, and I don't know if anybody will answer that, why aren't you putting out the whole $45 million for bonds this year so that the money can be there, that we can have the Housing Trust Fund funded as it should be, as it was voted on by the voters, by the citizens of New Orleans?
Thank you. This resolution does fit exactly within the law and does fund the Housing Trust Fund every year.
So this year, for example, of the $32 million that's being sold in bond funds for 2026, $16 million of that will be used to meet the HTF requirement of the amount equivalent to 2% of the general fund. So that's going into this year's funding. And then next year, remaining $13 million will be sold to do that. So I'm trying to, and that $16 million, by the way, that's being put into the HTF this year will be used to provide funding for the programs that the advisory committee approved on last year. So programs that were approved last year will begin to be able to be implemented.
And one of the other conversations that's maybe not being had is that council decided to do that. Now, technically, that still does fit within the regulations because the money is the 2% and it will be there. But to what you're asking, we're saying, well, January 1st. But if you look back at what was going on in January 1st, we weren't here for the idea that the advisory team had already, and the voters voted, like you said, but they had their own conversation and they set the council here. And that is the other part that we don't get to facilitate if that's the part you're looking for.
Can we?
I didn't hear your follow-up question.
We do. We make the recommendation, council makes the final decision, and we're making a recommendation that fits within the law and does allocate the full amount that is required to the Housing Trust Fund in both 2026 and 2027. Not necessarily, but Jeff, if you want to come up and explain that.
The question. So full stop. Your question is exactly right, and Ellen and Maxwell's responses are also entirely accurate. The Housing Trust Fund, as you noted, by law, has to be fully funded every single year. It is in the city charter. That was what was approved by voters, as I know you know so well. So what this is saying is that this year we are fully funding the Housing Trust Fund with bond money at $16 million. Plus, we are allocating some of the bond funds to allow these multifamily projects to move forward. Next year, what we are trying to do in full transparency is instead of having the city, the council and the administration approve these multifamily projects and then essentially tie the hands of the advisory committee and saying, look, we've already made these commitments without anybody having line of sight on this to these multifamily projects. We need you to use some of the Housing Trust Fund funds to fund the multifamily projects. We're coming in full transparency to the advisory committee to say it's still going to be $16 million next year. What we are saying is that the amount of money that won't be obligated under that $16 million to multifamily projects is at least $5.5 million that can go to the types of projects and programs that are being funded this year. So the $16 million is going to be there for next year. What this committee is considering a resolution for is saying that they are comfortable recommending to City Council and the administration that some of that $16 million goes to fulfilling the remainder of the multifamily obligations that we're making this year.
So not a full $16 million to the Housing Trust Fund?
No, it's going to the Housing Trust Fund can fund multifamily projects. So it's still the full $16 million. What we're saying is that the recommendations of that $16 million will be divided between these multifamily projects and the new program.
And that amount is? I mean, because
it's approximately, it's 10.4 million. So that's where Ellen's $5.5 million number that she referenced of new small multifamily and homeowner and fortified roof money, the balance of that will be able to be programmed as the advisory committee would like to recommend. So full stop, the Housing Trust Fund is going to be fully funded next year. What this is doing is just committing to, if we're going to do these multifamily projects, as I think we all want to see happen, what that advisory committee resolution says is that we're just committing that the recommendation in 2027 will include the remainder of these multifamily projects plus the new programming. That will still total $16 million for the advisory committee.
I have other questions.
I would love to discuss them.
And other nuances that are not included in this. But I mean, I think that if we're talking about a list of projects, definitive amounts, definitive numbers, where's the accountability when we come into next year of assuring that per the charter, the Housing Trust Fund is funding at its full requisite amount?
Absolutely. It has to be. It's a legal obligation, and you have my shared commitment to making sure that it is fully funded.
And we show up everywhere. I don't know if you be seeing us around, but we definitely, and you guys are gonna hold them accountable Everyone's holding each other accountable. We have to. We have to.
I'm here to hold you accountable
You
too.
have to,
So
you
yeah,
have to.
but I mean, the thing about it is, I'm just trying to figure out if we're doing $32 million in bonds this year, 16 going toward housing trust fund, the other 16 going toward the multifamily for this year.
The CEA has a calendar of payments, as I know you know, of when we need to get money out to NORA and FNO, and we have every intention of meeting those commitments.
And I get part of my question was too, why aren't we just going out for all of the bonds now so that we can make sure that it happens timely? There's a big part of what happened this year is that we were all set, meaning developers, people doing this work for the Housing Trust Fund to be funded. Development doesn't work like that. We have other sources of funding that we have to layer in terms of timing. We need to be able to predict when money is going to be available. Max, I'm pretty certain that if we put something out for bond, we're not getting it for August. So why aren't we putting it all the whole 45 million out this year so that we can have the money available and ready when we get ready to fund the Housing Trust Fund and the other projects next year?
Yep. It's a great question. So when the city goes to sell bonds, we have to go to the State Bond Commission to get approval, and we also factor in a lot of other considerations about, interest rates, the city's credit rating, and so this was the determination of the city about how much we were going to sell this year. And so I agree, it would be helpful to have the full amount sold up front. I think we will ensure as an administration and council and advisory committee that we won't have the same delays in this first year of funding the Housing Trust Fund next year. And so you can see in the CEA, there's a calendar of payments that we have to be funding regardless of the source of funding, whether it's general fund, affordable housing.
I guess that was my next question.
Just, I'm sorry, just to follow up, is it my understanding that the dollar amount that's going to be put into of the remaining bond funds is based on conversations you've had with the developers about the amount that will be needed in 2026?
Correct.
So if you ask why isn't the whole 45 million being put in to make sure the projects go, was that not? I thought you said, why aren't you selling the whole 45
well,
million?
in order to ensure that the funding for the Housing Trust Fund for 2027 is readily available at the early part of the year, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, there are just lots of factors in terms of how the city, as Ellen referenced, there are, in addition to the affordable housing bond dollars, there's the infrastructure money, the drainage money. The city isn't selling all 500 million of the bonds right away, and so this was the determination based on the needs that were expressed this year, and we'll be making sure that the dollars are available on the timeline in the CEA.
I guess my other question would be then too, I understand that we're funding through the bonds because of the crisis that the city is in.
That's absolutely.
And but as we move through this and hopefully rebound from it, will there be consideration to fund from what is the legally required or intended source, the 2% from the funds, should we have that money to ensure that we move timely in terms of funding the Housing Trust Fund?
I can't, I'm not the CAO, I'm not the council, but I think that as the city's finances stabilize, I think we'll have other tools at our disposal so that we don't have to draw as heavily on affordable housing bonds. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't think 2027 is a year that's going to happen, maybe 2028, but we have colleagues, City Hall is on furlough, obviously. There is not $16 million in general fund money right now. I know you know that. But I think, yes, our hope and our own internal advocacy and leadership is pushing to make sure that we have every affordable housing resource available to us. But right now, that's affordable housing bond money, and that's a win in its own right, but we know we need more.
All right.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Jeff.
Of course.
Okay, our next public comment is from Nicole Weber.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Nicole Weber. I represent ITEX, the developer for the Mazant Royal project, which is owned by Hano. We have been working on this, as many of you know, but I'm just saying it for the public and anyone listening. We've been working on this project since 2016. 2015, and I officially started on this project since 2017. And this is one of those examples of, if it can happen, it will. We have had to go through every process at least twice, land use process. We were stuck in FEMA 106 review and the historic preservation review for over 5 years. So it's an example of why it's so difficult to get affordable housing done. If this was a market rate project, we would have been under construction prior to COVID, and we would have been fully no vacancy. We would have had occupancy during COVID. So that just gives you an idea of how difficult these projects are. To date, the developer, and not including their internal expenses, overhead, that kind of thing, the developer has spent over $1.5 million. That's before even dirt has been turned over. We were able to get the test piles in, and that commenced the construction, but we are on hold. So if you drive by the site, you will see pilings sticking out of the ground awkwardly. So we are very excited to get the funds, and thank you for your support. Thank you to Jeff Schwartz for leading the charge amongst others. Thank you to the administration. Thank you to the committee for this, because we are very excited to get that construction rolling again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Colin Felsman?
Hey y'all, thanks very much. Colin Felsman with People's Housing Plus. So I really appreciate the merit of these projects, the huge impact they have, and the extenuating circumstances. I do feel like this committee needs to more seriously weigh the implications of this decision on a couple different fronts. So first, we've said it many times, there are other sources available to LIHTC projects, including these projects, that are not available to any of the other projects that would be funded by the Housing Trust Fund. That's a fact. We know that. There's been no NOFA released by OCD for a single family or small multifamily in years. The main thing I worry about is precedent. So there will always be projects. These are scarce, important dollars. I wish we had more dollars for hugely important projects like Maison Royale, but there will always be scarce dollars, and there will always be more need than dollars. So what happens when in the end of 2027, you have 5 more LIHTC projects that approach you and say, you know what, we have a $3 to $7 million gap in our projects. Please prioritize our project because it's more units and we weren't able to find the money elsewhere. In theory, you would say, well, it's more units and maybe we should support those. But that would, again, go against the kind of spirit. Yes, it's with the letter of the law of the trust fund. It's against the spirit. And I think we can, at least from my perspective, that's true. So the implications piece is the other really important thing. For me, there's implications for the program administrators who are setting up programs, trying to get them running this year, and then we'll basically be kind of having them sit severely underfunded for another year while we wait. And then for those of us that want to put these dollars to work, we're going to be putting in the time for pre-development, we're going to put in the time for staffing, all of that stuff to get projects shovel ready, and then we're going to be sitting on our hands. So you're going to end up way oversubscribed programs in 2026, and then developers sitting on their hands in 2027 that don't have dollars. So I guess the last thing I'd say about this is, again, super important projects that merit funding. I get the circumstances. Let's please look for any other available sources so we can top up the trust fund dollars a little bit, whether that's infrastructure bonds or something else. And let's be clear about precedents. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Colin.
you.
William Stout?
Good afternoon, William Stout with Rebuilding Together New Orleans. I'm going to kind of continue on what Colin was saying. I think what happens in 2027 when 2/3 of the Housing Trust Fund is tied up in 4 projects? And why not just sell the bonds this year and fund them now and then get them out the door so that we can actually use the Housing Trust Fund for its intended purposes, which is funding sources that would not be able to. There are a ton of great projects. Those are great projects, but I think it's really why have Nora and Finance New Orleans set up all the work and then next year have nothing to basically spend towards it. If we're trying to create consistency, I get forecasting right. It would be great to have a 2028 plan and a 2029 plan. But I think right now, we want the money out the door yesterday so that we can start standing up these projects. Why pass a resolution that says, this is what we're going to do in 2027? Why not just commit to doing that now? And then we can actually build towards what 2027 planning looks like.
Thank you.
Thank you. Andronica Morris?
afternoon. I'm Janika Mars with the Greater New Orleans Housing Alliance. I put in a card in opposition to this resolution, and the comments that I've heard so far reinforce that opposition. I would urge the advisory committee to redo this, as you all seem to be mixing apples and oranges here. I think first and foremost, you all recognize and have talked a great deal about, you understand your obligation to the Housing Trust Fund and the recommendations you need to be making to the City Council. And initially, this seems to be a document that I'm not sure is necessary to accept what the voters voted on, which is using the Prop 1 dollars to fund the trust fund this year. There is no real reason this advisory committee needs to reaffirm that decision. It has already been made, and you all have made recommendations that have been adopted by the City Council already, as you talked about earlier. The City Council has approved the 2026 budget. They are making adjustments that this body needs to entertain, talking about programming the dollars for 2026, which you have in a different motion, but accepting the bond financing is, I think, beyond the purview of this body. Second, this also conflates apples and oranges by attempting to slide under the Housing Trust Fund projects that you all did not approve, that the body did not approve for 2026, that the council did not approve for 2026, and sliding them under the trust fund when they should be, if the administration and the council want to work together to secure the surplus funding that is going to be generated by the bond financing and directing it to those projects. That is something they do not need this body's authority or recommendation to do. The council and the administration are well within their rights to take surplus bond financing, appropriate it as they see fit under the constraints that the financing have put forward. So I would recommend that you all amend this document and really put some more thought into.
Oh, thank you.
Meredith Green.
You can put them on the, we can put them on the side there. Give it to Elizabeth here. Give it to.
Good afternoon, Meredith Green, 7576 Briar Heath Drive. I submitted a few copies. I wrote something, I guess I'll read it. It's my deduction that affordable housing has to be fortified with a responsible attitude as to the public space that surrounds the affordable housing. While the Affordable Housing Fund money is envisioned to be used for new units of affordable housing, it is also mandated to focus on and aid in the shoring up of existing stock. I spoke at the last meeting about Senate Bill 505 and the opportunity it affords the city to get a new mindset on dealing with adjudicated property disposition. The pictures that I've submitted are pictures of affordable housing area. The pictures are adjudicated properties next to the affordable housing. If you flip through the pictures, you can see where the sidewalk is blocked by the grass. If you flip through the pictures, you can see where I myself personally has took care of one of the sites. There's two other sites. Out of the three sites that I've presented pictures of, I've took care of the fourth page, that site, and that's the copy that's not attached. I do all this, and I realize that the committee is focused on providing housing, but we can't forget about the public space around the housing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you. Next up, I have Luann White.
Good afternoon. My name is Luann White. I'm with Luba Services. We develop housing for people who are homeless. We're a small developer. And I came in late, so I'm not sure if I missed something, but I don't see any kind of response in this about supporting small developers and for a building. Is that not in here, or is there a recommendation around that, or did I miss it? What's happening with the small developers?
Well, with this particular resolution speaks to the use of funding for some projects that had, there are projects, $16 million for programs that had been approved by the last of these committees, and then the city's proposing to use bond funding to begin the funding of some of its projects that it has on the table. Jeff, I don't know if you want, Mr. Kennedy is a small emerging developer, for example, and I know that the city had a commitment to supporting small and emerging developers. So again, I don't know.
So where is that? Is that still
It's not reflected
reality?
in this particular resolution because this is a specific resolution for how funds get used. But
then what are y'all saying about that? The committee? Are you making recommendations around that? I'm just trying to find out what's happening.
This recommendation, or this resolution was specific to something that came up very recent, or at our last meeting, and is an effort to try and be transparent with everyone. But I think everyone on this committee supports small developers. And it's something that we're going to do, something that we did in our 2026 recommendations, and something that we will continue in our 2027 recommendations. So I think you'll probably find that in our 2026 or 2025 budget report that we made recommendations to the council with. But it's not in this specific one because this is on a separate topic. I'm sorry, we can't.
Can you just speak up? The mic turned off. Can you just speak up a little bit so we can hear you?
I mean, what's happening is that there are $16 million, well, $14.5 million in program funds roughly allocated for this year, 2026, that are going to go to NORA and FNO and will be eligible for small developers to compete for almost all of that funding.
With the idea that there will be additional funding coming in throughout the next year or something, right? If I'm not mistaken, that they will have the option to, could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, sure. So there's, I want to make sure that you get a chance to ask that question, but yeah, there's roughly $14.5 million in program funds that were allocated last year that will go out the door this year through NORA and FNO. All of those programs are eligible for small developers and contractors, and then there will be money in 2027 that will similarly be eligible. It won't be quite as much because what we're saying is some of it is going to be committed to the majority of the funding is going to be committed to these larger projects in 2027 if this resolution passes. Well, if the council does what this resolution suggests.
Additionally, the city, the administration sends out notices of funding availability, and through their processes, so separate and apart from Housing Trust Fund money, there's opportunity for small developers to compete for those funds as well. So when Nora and FNO are going to give us updates as part of our agenda, they might speak to the resources that they have allocated for this year already, or you can, I know Ms. Bro is here, and I see Ms. Shivers here from FNO. They may be able to speak to you directly about opportunities that will be available to compete for the program funds that are going to be administered under their purview. Understood. Thank you.
Morgan Clevenger.
Good afternoon, committee. I'm glad to be here. The last meeting, which was apparently the first meeting of the year, was canceled with no notice. I was here at City Council chambers and nothing was here, and did not get the notice of the next meeting, which the rescheduled meeting. So I really urge everybody to have a way to contact you guys, because we can't find a way to do that. But I'm here today to really talk about homeowners, because everything I'm hearing is about developers. And our homeowners are in an extraordinarily vulnerable position, particularly our senior homeowners who have come back after Katrina, who've taken hit after hit, who rebuilt, who have really suffered from the double whammy of COVID and Ida. Hurricane Ida was the most underassessed, underaddressed Cat 4 hurricane to ever hit a city. And the number of tattered blue tarps on our roofs, people have just now accepted that as the norm. It is not the norm. And for our seniors, our fixed income, our, everybody that's on retirement, we're all squeezed from high insurance rates, utilities, property taxes, and now gas and the cost of living. This is not sustainable, and I'm very disappointed to not see anything in here that is allocated to homeowners. We're losing our generational wealth, our Black homeowners, our minority homeowners, women homeowners, who are not represented in any of these documents. I'm extraordinarily concerned about that, and we have to make a change. If we can get the bond money and the 2% that's supposed to be dedicated to this housing trust fund to go to fortified roofs, we can create a critical mass that would lower insurance rates. We need thousands of fortified roofs in this city.
Thank you.
I just want to first apologize to Morgan about the miscommunication at the last meeting. We do have updated information now on the City Council's website that does post the meeting information. I'm sorry that it didn't get up early enough for you to make it to the last one. But we are in better shape, and we have an update about that on the agenda today. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, well, I looked at the website this morning because I didn't want to come down here and pay for parking and gas and time to come to another meeting. That's what the council was going to notice. And, well, I had asked Jeffrey last week, please put who are even the committee members on this piece.
It's listed.
And so that did appear, but there is no email or how to get in touch or how to send information or get information. There's nothing there.
There is a static form on the website where you can send information that has been up there for weeks.
On the City Council website?
Yeah, it's on the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee webpage, which is on the City Council website. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
All right.
And I have one more card. I'll also I have one more card. Ms. Aquanetta, I think you had initially said 4, but if you want to speak on this, please come on up.
Well, as you know, I'm Aquanetta Barnes. 73, been a woman for 73 years, nothing else but a woman, although a lot of rumors has been passed about me. Now I feel the hate, but I don't feel the love, because I was the second one here. And you put me last or act like you misplaced my card. So I understand that hate is your problem. I don't have a problem like that. It seems like y'all need to get that straight, okay? But accountability is important. And it's a community accountability that y'all not giving to community. Y'all talk about infrastructure and this and that, but not the people who live in the community, especially the people who are low income or disabled. Now, this program was brought under LaToya Cantrell administration. The first bill did not pass because I guess they didn't understand. The second bill passed. Now it's up to this administration to distribute these funds to us. And we're trying to figure when we're going to get these funds. Are we going to get these funds this year, or are you going to try to compile these funds for next year? But in other words, the funds that this project was made for, it's not coming to the people it should come to. And I'm one of those people. I'm trying to figure out what to deal with my rural home money. Okay, I was $100,000 each of apartment that I never received. So I feel extortion, embezzlement, hatred, and all that might be going on. And I hope that's not going on with this program. And I have to have this same feeling. Because my next step is to get me an attorney, and hopefully I can get people to fight against it. Now, I know y'all have to go to the city council with this here. Y'all just getting information and gathering it to the city council. They have the last word. Okay? And Jerusalem is behind this here, as well as Mr. Moreno. Now, they're talking about doing business with Mexico. I hope our money is not going to Mexico. You know what I mean? Because we know who's going to get it. So I don't think they should be doing any business with Mexico. But this is the way I feel. When are we going to receive this money? This year. And my understanding, it should have been increased when I went to the meeting. Because your budget was increased. So this...
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. I have a comment for you. One is thank you for your comments. And it'll be two updates. One, on your card, just for the record, you said that you wanted to speak to item number 4, and that's the next item on the agenda. It's not the current one, and so we're just calling.
I was told by the line of scopes to put down.
Well, ma'am, I hear you. I just want to speak to why you said you were the third person here, and we hadn't gotten to you. It was because we're on item number 3, and on your card, however you were told that, it said item number 4. So it was no disrespect to you to not call on you. This is just how we take the questions in order.
I don't think y'all understand it right. People understand what the number they should choose. Where y'all have
Well, fair enough. We'll try to make sure that we're more clear on that moving forward. And then, so, yes, ma'am, and so we have an update for you from the two administrators of the programs. That's going to be New Orleans Redevelopment Authority and Finance New Orleans. They are items 5 on our agenda. So they will be providing some updates to you to let the public know, you and the rest of the public know, the progress that's being made on the use of funds that was allocated for this year.
But you see, that's why they got to put a buy date. We look for that new book. We need to receive by this date. Because the course started in January this year. We waited here going to June. So in other words, that means you can extend it out to December 2026. Because no permanent doctor, no permanent day. I know the game that people play. No game we play. But we going to get this money here before December. I know the game that go on what's going on. You got to close the loophole, and not make the loophole whatever. It's not closed. You got to get a body. Buy January. Buy this day. So y'all don't play with it. You want to close it. Y'all play all the games. Put it back off. Y'all might look at when I work. I've been an issue. But when I started, the lady said, look, they called us Peter. Because we got about 45. You know what I mean?
Ma'am, I understand. We're doing the best we can right now with the resources we have. Thank you so much. We have an online comment.
The comment is from Taj Johnson, and it says, the residents of New Orleans overwhelmingly voted in favor of the Housing Trust Fund with an allocation of 2% of general funds budgeted to be dedicated to housing for each fiscal year. It is expected that there will be a clear transparency in the allocation of bond funds and the allocation of the 2% general obligation funds that is specifically dedicated to the Housing Trust Fund each fiscal year. While it is clear that all projects dedicated to housing is a priority, do not put the needs of the unhoused in a program designated to assist homeowners with the high cost of insurance as an afterthought in planning the projects.
Thank you. All right, are there any other questions from the committee members about the resolution? Go ahead. Sabrina?
Get your mic.
Oh.
So when I came in, I was clear about what we were doing. Well, right now, I'm in all transparency, I'm not clear because I thought, too, that we were going to deal with the roofing and...
That's item 4.
That's item 4.
Yes, ma'am.
But it is not in a resolution format.
Correct. The roof program and the
Separate
other,
and apart.
that's going to be the next item. not
All
item
right,
4.
okay. So as Gilda Ratner would say, never mind. Okay.
Elizabeth, Tasia?
No current
and
issues with the resolution.
All right, so we have a resolution and a second on the floor. I will entertain.
I would like to say, can we vote after? Can we vote after? Because my only contingency is that for the same comment on my left side, it's clear to us a little bit because we're looking at this staggered a little bit, like you said. So it feels like a silo. It's not a silo, but you're not able to see the whole picture. And I'm just advocating maybe that we could vote on number 3 after they finish doing the updates, just so that people feel transparency. Personally, I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but that's what I'm suggesting. Not that I don't want to vote or we shouldn't vote, that we just allow the public to see and hear a little bit more, and then we vote. What do you guys feel about that?
I feel like withdrawing the motion.
And we could table it and then until the end of the meeting. If that's the desire, does anybody else feel any?
You're talking about the updates from the administrators. I'm not sure that that's going to, well, I mean, I'm happy to do it, but I don't know that it's going to add much context about, sure.
So we have a motion and a second. We'll table the vote on it until we've completed item 5 on the agenda. Is everybody okay with that? Everybody's okay with that? All right. So then we will move to item 4, which is a proposal for $1.26 million in new revenue. This $1.26 million is a result of some additional budget revenue that was recognized by the administration and that was adopted by the city councils. There was some $74 million of additional revenue for the 2026 budget year. The council committed to ensuring that this additional revenue would be counted as part of the 2% of the general fund that's to be committed to the Housing Trust Fund. That would result in basically an increase of $1,260,550 that would be available to support the programs that had been identified through last year's Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee. So in other words, to add it to the programs that Nora and FNO will be administering for this year. So again, this conversation began at our meeting on last month. We've got 3 scenarios that we have been thinking about on ways to spend this $1.26 million. One of those scenarios is to allocate 100% of that funding to support the owner-occupied roof rehab program, which basically supports fortified roofs. So we're taking the entire $1.26 million to support additional fortified roofs. What we are recommending, what this resolution is saying, or what this recommendation is saying, is that we're asking that these funds be used for applicants. We had heard that there's a great need for homeowners who had been selected in the state's fortified roof lottery program, but who did not have sufficient funds to actually get the roof. So the state gives you $10,000. A roof might cost $15,000 or $16,000, and people need to fill that gap in order to get the $10,000, so that the program would prioritize those folks who had already been selected through a state program and then would need additional resources. That is a recommendation on how to use the money, with 100% being allocated to that. A second proposal is to split the $1.26 million 50-50, put approximately $630,225 for uses that I just outlined, and then the remaining half toward the developer program. There's a program that supports subsidy for new development of affordable homeownership programs. And so I'm making these numbers up, but if the cost of building a new home is $250,000 and a home buyer can only afford a mortgage of $150,000, that there would be a subsidy of $100,000 to bring down the development cost, so that a prospective home buyer would be able to afford to move into that program. And that these homes would be built to all the standards that included the fortified roofs, et cetera, so that insurance costs could be lowered and all the things that we want for resilient, quality, affordable housing. That's the second proposal. And then the third proposal is basically to take $1 million of this $1.26 million and put that million, or in other words, the vast majority of this $1.26 toward the subsidy for new homeownership development, to those standards that I just spoke of, and then a remainder, or a little over $250,000, to support the fortified roofs as a standalone program. So those are the three options that this committee has been weighing, and I don't know if we've got any consensus on any way to go.
We've got some comment cards, but I also want to give a little context to start with, if that's okay. So this was a big part of our conversation at the last hearing, and we tabled a vote to this hearing, and part of what we discussed at that hearing is that because we're already halfway through the year, or almost halfway through the year, and we need to give Nora and Finance New Orleans enough headway and time to develop programs, that we agreed, came to consensus, I believe, that we weren't going to put this money towards new programs. We were going to only allocate it towards programs that the administrators are familiar with and that the developers and contractors they work with are familiar with, because that is what made sense to actually get the money out the door. That meant that we were primarily looking at three programs, and the two that we talked about here, the fortified roofs and the owner-occupied development. We also talked about owner-occupied rehab, which would be for low-income homeowners who own their homes and need help to do some other larger rehab more than just a roof. And the reason that that's not included in the examples here is, one, because it's a program that the city has experience running, but neither of the administrators do. And then secondly, Jeff was able to let us know that the city is about to execute a contract for $2.4 million specifically for that need. So in this year, the city is going to take care of that program, so the Housing Trust Fund doesn't have to. In the future, we may have, I think there are rich conversations to be had about who makes more sense to run that program, whether it's the city or one of the administrators, but for now, the city's going to do it, so we don't have to. So that's why the three...
down to two.
Yeah, that's why the three got cut down to two. The other thing I'll mention is that, and this is to your point, Morgan, the $16 million, the $14.5 million in program funds that we allocated for 2026 actually disproportionately serve homeowners. They disproportionately serve this owner-occupied development and roof rehab. So most of the money for 2026 is going towards homeowner programs. And now we are suggesting allocating an additional $1.26 million to homeownership programs. Morgan, I'll let you have a chance to speak when we call your card. So anyway, that's the context I wanted to provide there. If anyone, we want to do public comment first and then comments here?
Well, we don't, because let's do public comment because we don't have a motion on any one of the three.
Okay. William Stout.
Afternoon, William with Rebuilding Together. I don't have you guys can decide where it's 100%, 80%, 50%. I think that's totally y'all's call. I'm just here for kind of some context around the fortified roof stuff, just because we're the most prolific fortified roofer in New Orleans and in Louisiana, and we've worked the most with the state to deliver the matching funds for grant programs. So on that, I would just call out having flexible funding that can gap fund state LDI grant awards is a great idea, because right now a lot of New Orleanians can't access those grant funds because you have to have homeowners insurance and flood insurance if you're not in an X zone to even get that grant. And so we've navigated about 100 and something households that have won the lottery or participated in the nonprofit state round to gap fund. So I think that at having a $5,000 investment that can unlock a $10,000 investment is a good use of housing trust fund dollars, objectively. I do think that there's always competing priorities and there's a lot of complexity. And so I just, there is already a lot of money, but I do think there's also a tremendous amount of need. So I'm going to reserve the rest of my time to answer any questions you guys might have if it would be helpful.
I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Colin Felsman.
Thanks, y'all. I'm going to say, take Will's 30 seconds. So I agree. There's also, as I said previously, these are scarce dollars. There's a lot of need. Any one of these would be really great use of the resources. Will makes a fantastic point that unlocking public dollars would be terrific. I do want to suggest that y'all said you don't want to allocate this to a new program, but this would be a new program if you used it for a gap fund. And I would want to understand, what are the income restrictions? How do you identify people? Who administers it? All of that stuff. And so it does kind of run counter. It is a new program. Home ownership is not a new program. And while small multifamily may be a new program, I worry that if we're going to have a deeply underfunded housing trust fund in 2027, what we're going to miss out on is small multifamily. We're going to have a huge waiting list of projects for Finance New Orleans to fund and not enough dollars. And so I would ask that you consider looking at what that wait list of projects might look like and whether there's a split that includes some money going to small multifamily, some to home ownership, and maybe if you decide to fund a new program, some to this gap fund. Thanks.
Thanks, Colin. Morgan Clevenger.
Okay, please explain this money. You're saying that the 17 million or 14 or whatever's in the resolution, you're saying it has is dedicated to homeowners and fortified roofing? Please show me where that's at. And please don't take my time to do that. Can you tell us about that, please?
I'm happy to discuss with you off mic or another time. I don't want to take your time, though, so I won't do it now.
Okay. Well, the problem is you're talking about the state lottery, which has failed this city. It's failed. As a neighborhood association president, we have a neighborhood of many, many seniors who cannot get in that program. I personally tried 5 times. The number of roofs is infinitesimal in terms of what is needed. The gap financing, it helps, but the fact is that lottery is closed. It's been closed. It's when? Okay, well, the fact is hurricane season is in 1 month. We've been talking about this for years now, since Ida. After 5 years of a compromised roof, the building is compromised. The ceilings are falling down. There's going to need a lot more rehab than just a fortified roof. So when you talk about gap funding, that's one thing. But $1.2 million for fortified roofs compared to developers for apartment units? I mean, where are we really putting our priority? We have to invest back into our people who carry the burden of these taxes that pay for this budget.
Thank you, Morgan. Andronica Morris.
Good afternoon, Andronica Morris, Greater New Orleans Housing Alliance. I'm making my comment for information. I would like to help kind of clarify some of the questions that have been asked and clear up some of the things. First of all, I would argue that the 2026 allocation does not disproportionately invest in homeowners. It is 50-50, and we are a 50-50 city now. Unfortunately, part of the reason we are a 50-50 city is because we have lost renters at an unprecedented rate. They have been displaced, but we have also forced homeowners into foreclosure. And one of the issues around foreclosures and the failure to keep renters housed has been the insurance crisis. And this allocation, this appropriation, the 2026 appropriation, does not disproportionately, I would argue, but appropriately attempts to address the insurance crisis by delivering fortified roofs, not simply to homeowners, but to small mom and pop landlords, with the caveat that they pass those savings down. So I would say that most of the money is going towards fortified roofs, but it's not going to homeowners and it's not going to renters. There's no majority or imbalance. There was some discussion about the fact that there's a bigger need for renters in order to have them come home, but the body decided not to create programs to further expand those programs and to have it be something that is more aligned. Also, I would like to clarify on the fortified roof program concerns and help illuminate some of the concerns that you've heard about not just the state program, but also the program that the body has endorsed and that the council has signed off on and the administrators that will be designing. The fact of the matter is that the grant programs, as Will explained, need a lot of help, especially in New Orleans, and especially with helping people close those gaps. This program that has been authorized puts forward about $25,000 so that you can actually help a household.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification also, Andronica. You are correct that the 2026 money is split 50-50. This $1.26 million dedicated to homeowners would put it over that 50% mark. And thank you also for acknowledging the reason I said it was disproportionately allocated towards homeowners is because of the numbers on need. Right, we discussed this last year that renters are disproportionate in New Orleans, even though it's not a 50-50 city, we're 55% homeowners at this point. But renters still make up a much larger share of households who are cost burdened. They spend too much of their income towards their housing costs. And so that was the reference I was making there. I will also note that there was a lot of conversation last year. Folks were strongly advocated for more funding for rental housing program because of that greater need for for lower income renters. So that was something that we promised to do in this coming year. In 2027, and that is actually part of, I think, what the resolution speaks to, but that's a separate topic. So,
any other comments on that?
Nope, that's all the comment cards.
All right, colleagues, good. And then while we're waiting for the comment, do you guys have any questions on these three options that were, or comments on it?
I feel a little bit more strongly about a 50-50 split. I do think it would be a good opportunity to access the state's funds and use the gap funding to do that. I don't know that we'll have that opportunity later, so this year makes sense to do that. I do understand, and I'm hearing that it really does, right? The roof affects everything else, and continues, deferred repairs really does make everything worse. So if we can take this opportunity to make some of those repairs, I think we have a pretty large impact. I know Liz had some data on the amount of, that how many folks got the fortified grants through the state, but we weren't able to actually access. It's a huge number, and I think that would, it would be important if we could put some money towards that this year.
Thanks. Sabrina, you look like you have a burning comment down there.
I need clarification on, so HUD funds would be used for the roof fortification programs, right? That 1.26 million would rehab approximately 35, right? And so that comes to HUD.
No, this 1.26 is additional, an additional allocation to the Housing Trust Fund.
Okay.
Because the city had identified additional revenue from in the estimate for this year's revenue. And so when you take the 2% of it, that provides additional money that can be allocated this year. So it's HTF money in essence. What you may have heard on HUD or city funds is what we learned from Jeff after our last meeting is that the city has identified funding to do owner-occupied rehab programs. And so at our last meeting, we talked about owner-occupied rehab as an option, and the fortified roof, and the subsidy for new construction. And we have taken owner-occupied rehab, but for roofs, off of our table because of the amount of funding that the city is putting into to cover that program. Separate from.
Okay. Which, remember earlier when I was saying it's not really a silo, but it seems like it's separated in different pieces. So if we talked about it out loud, then it is kind of like, oh, okay, that's a little more, like you mentioned. So if the city want to do that portion and we're all in agreement and being accountable with each other, then that's money that in that one portion that wouldn't have to come out of the Housing Trust Fund, because technically it'd be doubled.
Right, so the 16 point something we would deal with would be identified in a resolution for those 6.
And a few other things that's not in the resolution, or am I mistaken, Maxwell?
Okay.
Because
2025, that would be 2025, right. Okay, I think that's what's throwing me off, because I'm looking at something that was addressed in 2025, but we're dealing with it right now. Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Anything else on this? Oh, we have one more comment card, yes.
Yep, Ms. Aquanetta.
Yes, as Ms. Morgan said, that y'all taking so long to give us this money to renovate our homes, that our homes are being more damaged, and it's going to cost more money for us to repair them. Also, I want to say, as well as, they try to sign a bill, the Democrats. Corporations is buying up this property so they don't make it a Fortune 500 company. Corporations don't want you to renovate your house, because I'm in Central City, because they want to purchase your home, put you out there for little or nothing, buy it as is. So they're trying to stop this, let alone contracting. So in other words, we need y'all to help us fix our homes so we not forced. Because I have a fourplex right there by Rita Castle Haley, by Singleton School on Daniel Street. Got the library right around the corner. So the location I'm in is very, very wanted as well. So these corporations and these contractors, whoever connections that they have to keep you from renovating your property, you're not forced out of your property because you are not giving us the money to renovate our property. And I think y'all should think about the community too, not just for infrastructure, because we are part of infrastructure. And not so people from out of state who make much more money than us can come and purchase at our home at little or no price. So I think something that y'all need to be done about this. We need to have our home repaired right now. And a lot of it says on fixed income. Mine tend to supplement my income. Okay, or senior citizens, as Ms. Morgan said. So you are not considering, my understanding, you are not considering none of this and saying, hey, we need to get this money out to these people so these people run these. So these corporation contractors don't try to buy these people homes. They were 30 years that now they want to leave.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Is that it? What is this?
Daisy, sorry. This is for number 5.
My name is LaGrue. I am representing Housing NOLA, and I wanted to ask a clarifying question. There was just a comment made about the removal or backing out of the owner-occupied program because the city is going to initiate and cover funding for that. Want to clarify, is that in addition to the award that was issued last year that went to Rebuilding Together New Orleans that we haven't heard anything from, or is that replacing that funding?
Are you done? Sorry, I don't want to take up your time.
Yeah,
Okay.
Answer to that question.
Jeff, I believe that's an OCD question. But I will clarify that none of the money has been removed.
Right.
Right. This wasn't something that was part of our 2026 allocations.
It's in addition to. I'm sorry. It's in addition to. Yeah. It's a amendment to the prior award, and then there is an additional $5 million that was an award made late last year in the administration, and so we're working on the contract now.
So we should be looking at $7 million?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And those are entitlement funds, if anyone's wondering.
Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff.
I had 7 seconds left on my time. I'd like to follow up on what I was after Ms. Huckabee. So I would ask you,
Katie and Maxwell, what you're talking about in terms of all of this money for homeowners that you said you want to talk about offline, I think it's really important for the public to hear this information, because everything you guys are talking about, you're talking about last year and the last meeting, these are not easily available to the public. Who really knows this information? And we could probably be much more supportive if we were more informed, because I don't want to have an offline meeting. It needs to be on the record how this is all broken out. And I really ask you to defer voting on any of this stuff until the public is more informed. And I will also say, as an owner, my retirement strategy was to buy that fourplex, right? As many of our citizens, especially women, as they become seniors, they have doubles. That's grandma's house, that's Momo's house. That's how we maintain our lives. And if our roofs are compromised, I have 2 units I can't rent and haven't been able to rent for 5 years. I'm not the only one. There are thousands of people in this situation. So we really need to get the public more informed, put this on a website or somewhere where people can read this, because y'all are speaking all these numbers and you're saying 72 million for homeowners, but we don't know what that means. I want to support what y'all are doing, but you can't go back and talk about last year and last month if nobody was at that meeting and there's no record of it. So please, support the people of this city and make sure the public is informed before we push all this money forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. And I mean, I absolutely understand your frustration with transparency. I think, you know, anytime you're talking about public meetings, they're never as open and available as they should be, right? Council meetings are always in the middle of the day, in the middle of the afternoon. Our meetings are similarly because we have to be, we try to be on public record and have these video recorded, which means we have to work during the hours of chambers. We weren't able to do that with our last meeting, but it was recorded by Genoha, and it's on their Housing NOLA. It's on their Facebook page, which is great. But the document you're talking about is the budget that was passed last year, that we passed in open meetings last year in multiple meetings, and that the City Council passed in multiple meetings last year and is available on the Council's website. And I'm happy to walk you through it, but I'm not willing to delay our vote today to do that.
Post that on the website for you guys.
Yeah,
So the document number, because people do not have the time to wait through all that to find us.
If I could add a little bit here, a part of this conversation for 2026 is that transparency looks like social media. Transparency looks like being able to access and show up and understand what's going on. A part of what's going on is that this is chambers, and as Maxwell mentioned, we as a housing trust fund have to be able to schedule with everyone else around and have access to the TV so that way you can see it and the people online. So we're grateful when it can be recorded by other people. And I agree with you. If you go on the website right now, there has the information to make public comments and stuff like that, but you're asking for amendments. I would suggest that we could all ask and advocate that maybe this social media for City Hall looks like advocating Housing Trust Fund. Now that will go into who runs the social media page for City Hall. That has nothing, that has to do with us, but in a different way, right? So maybe I could let you know this. I will send it to them and ask them to advocate and put it on there. You have my face, we look at eye to eye. I could do that, that's no problem. But in the future, that is one of the things that we will be mindful to make sure it's out so that way you all have. You also mentioned, what does it look like to have an outgoing email, right? I'm sure that's something that we've discussed in the past, but because the city has its own way of doing things and you have to go through the city, I'm curious if there's a checkbox that we could do Housing Trust Fund, like you could do with 311, you could do with everything else, and how you see we're having this public conversation in this way. We want you to feel supported by us, but a lot of times it looks like us making it up. I'm not making this up along the way because there are boxes that could be checked, but is the Housing Trust Fund board one of the ones you could get an updated newsletter from yet? Well, we got to make sure that's on there. So please continue to advocate and show up.
We're going to get an update about the website and the elements that are on the website. That's item 6 on our agenda.
This money that's allocated for 26, we wanted all youth. And not having that. You know what people go on.
Well, and ma'am, that is why we're trying to take these votes today so that that we can keep advancing the progress in getting these resources to the program administrator. So that's what we're trying to do today at this meeting, is take votes on a couple of motions, a resolution and this motion on how we use this additional money so we can keep it moving and getting that out into the hands of those people who need it. That is we're going to get an update from Nora and FNO on where they are in their readiness to actually put the money on the street. I'm not going to say that all 16 million of it will be used, you know, in the remaining 7 months, but I know that they are as committed to making sure that these funds hit the street. They are accountable to the public in the same way that this advisory council is. So that is really our goal today, is to get the money moving, get a vote so that we keep it moving forward so that the money gets out on the street as soon as possible. We understand the need, ma'am. There's so much need and so few resources, but we're doing the best we can to allocate what we do, to make recommendations allocating what we do have the ability to do. I will just ask my colleagues if you have a question or a preference for any of the, Liz, you also talked about a 50-50 split, so about $600,000 for each bucket. Tasia, Sabrina, Liz, Max, any preferences on?
Can I like the idea of doing a 50-50 split. One thing that we may just want to tweak is the AMI limit that we're setting for the roofs. I'm just worried that we're going to miss out on some kind of middle, and I'm sorry for just now bringing this up, but it was just brought to my attention. I'm worried we're going to miss out on some folks if we set it at 80% AMI, and maybe we just set it a little higher for homeowners that wouldn't qualify for kind of other nonprofit programs that already exist, if that's something y'all are open to. So don't want to delay a vote.
Well, I think that we could allocate the funds in whatever way we want and then come back with on an income split our next meeting.
I mean, you can propose an amendment to change that from 80% to 100%.
I also second that motion because I think one of the conversations I wanted to add, I just will word it different, but thank you, Liz, was more like we have working class renters and we have low income renters, and what does that look like? And for what you just said, that's the difference in AMI, right? So
we're talking about homeowners.
We're talking about homeowners. Right. This is for this fortified roof.
Okay, so I would then say they have homeowners who have a higher income and then low income, so but same.
Okay. Sabrina, you're okay. 50-50, increase the income limit to 100% of AMI.
And to give people, I kind of hate using AMI because I think it's pretty obtuse and most folks don't know what it means, but 100% of the area median income for New Orleans for a family of 4 is about $87,000 a year.
All right, so we have a motion.
Hello, okay. I'll make a motion to do the 50-50 split and amend it to increase the AMI limit to 100%.
All right, do I have a, I'm sorry. I can't hear what y'all are saying.
Okay.
William's saying the state's program goes to 120.
Yeah.
And so we have a choice of saying we could go to this full 120, or we could prioritize it for people below 100 if that's something we choose. Like we don't have to, like we can mirror the state or we don't have to. It's our choice how we want to prioritize that.
I'm happy to withdraw my amendment if people are interested in doing 120.
Well, our amendment,
or excuse me, withdraw my motion if people are interested in doing 120%.
Let's do motion first and then amend. Does that make sense? If we, can we make a motion on the 50-50 and then amend it?
Oh, sure.
Does that make sense?
I don't know, but we can do
Yes, that makes sense. We make the motion so we have 50-50 on record, and then we go back and say this
all right, so we have a motion to split the $1.26 million 50-50 to fortified roofs and development of new home ownership program. So $630,000 and some change to each program. Who made that motion for me?
That can be me.
You did, and then who had give me a second on?
Tasia.
You did, Tasia. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Oh.
Just for the homeownership or the homeowner construction program stays exactly the same as it is.
Yes. All right, so that's what we're doing right now. All those in favor of the 50-50 split of funds?
Aye.
Do we take?
I think we do the amendment first, right, before we vote on the full thing.
Okay.
Now we know which one we're looking at. Now.
All right, so we're looking
procedurally. I don't know. I'm not Robert's rules.
No. We can.
Now we make the motion for the 120 MI.
Right.
There you go. So do I have a motion for that?
Yes.
All right.
And I'll second it.
And you seconded it, yeah? So y'all just reversed what you did the last time. All right, I see what you did there. All right, so we have a motion with an amendment. So now the motion that we're going to vote on is to take of the $1.26 million in additional revenue that's been identified, to take $630,225 of it, it's going to be that approximate amount, and $630,225 equally allocated to the owner-occupied roof rehab program for incomes up to 120% of the area median income, and for the new construction of low-income or affordable home ownership where the income limit is.
I don't remember what it is, but it's whatever.
It's whatever's already inside of Nora's existing program for development of new home ownership subsidy. All right. All those in favor
Of the amendment.
of the amendment, we're going to vote on the amendment first to change the income cap to 120%. Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, now we have the amendment. We're voting on the complete motion. All those in favor of the motion as amended?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Thank you all so much. Are we ready to go back to our vote on our resolution now, or would you like to hear from our administrators on their updates?
I would love for the administrators to do the updates,
All
and
right.
then the public can hear, and then we can vote, so we can all be excited together.
Righty, well, here we go then. I would ask did we? Go. It's a question about the motion that we just.
Yeah, I thought we wanted 120 for vote.
We're going to 120 for fortified, and wherever Nora's program design exists, we're following whatever Nora's program design is for the development piece, subsidy piece.
Let's bring them up and we can figure it out.
Let's hear from, okay.
I'll look it up for you, Nicole.
If we can hear from Nora and FNO, whoever wants to come up first. We're asking for some updates from Nora and Finance New Orleans on your progress in your design and your readiness. And this again is for programs that are being designed to utilize the Housing Trust Fund's resources that have been allocated for 2026.
Do you want me to run your slides? Yeah. All right. I don't mind. All right, I'm scoot over. Yeah.
You can fill out a card, Nicole, or we can, we'll get it as we get the updates, if that's your sole question on it. Okay.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Housing Trust Advisory members. It's good to be here this afternoon. I certainly appreciate the robust dialogue and discussion because we all want to get it right. You all, the community, those who are potential recipients of the program, we want to get it right. There's also a recognition that this is the very first time that we'll be implementing this, and that you, the advisory board for this year and the advisory board for last year, will be able to see some of that work come to fruition. So I understand the angst from everyone and the clarity that we all need. And we're all going to do our best to make certain that we provide that. And I know that when we don't, we'll have people people reminding us of what our duties and our obligations are. It's not intended to renege on any of that. But having said that preamble, I just want to provide for the Advisory Trust Fund Advisory Committee just kind of the status and where we have been working on over the course of not just the last meeting, but a lot of work that has taken place over the course of the last few months leading up to kind of where we are. There's also a recognition that there was a CEA that was approved by the council, thanking them for that. That is working its way through systems so that all parties can assign it. So we're excited about that and where that leads us. In the meantime, we have been working on how do we identify and work through these programs. So the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority, as well as our other implementing partner, Finance New Orleans, we've been working collectively on orchestrating not only just this first public listening session that we're going to be having. The listening session is scheduled for Friday of next week at our NORA offices. There will be 2 listening sessions. We're dividing up our listening sessions based on the programs and the program's design and what we're proposing to do. Our first program coming out of the gate will be the Housing Trust Fund Fortified Roofing Program. That listening session, again, will be hosted by NORA and Finance New Orleans. This is an opportunity for us to gather feedback from residents, contractors, any other affordable housing stakeholders regarding the Fortified program. We have been under the hood developing the framework. To be quite frank with you, staff internally, we have been doing that, working through that. We were not and are not going to issue and roll out a program publicly without hearing from individuals as to what they'd like to see. We've got the framework. We will be doing that. We will also making certain that the sessions are recorded. We have the sessions scheduled for next Friday. There are 2 sessions, one at 9 a.m. from 9 to 10 and the other from 11 to 12. Then the first session might roll over to another 20 or 30 minutes. We recognize that. We've posted that information on the NORA website. We've posted it on Finance New Orleans website. I shared that information. I think I emailed it. Was that to you, Matt? Emailed it with the link. If individuals, as of last night, we had 23 individuals that signed up. There could have been more between last night and this morning, but there were 23 signed up for the first listening session. They're posted on our social media platforms as well. We've posted it on both of Finance New Orleans and New Orleans Redevelopment Authority website.
And I'll just draw attention to the QR code on the screen now. That should work. So if one of those avenues for getting in touch does not work for you, you can scan the QR code to RSVP through the Eventbrite. Once you do that, you will get a confirmation email that I believe will have some additional details about joining virtually if you're not able to make it in person.
And if for whatever reason we have more than 100 folks that are interested and attend, we'll certainly open up another session in the coming week or week after. We wanted to maintain the space where we were doing it, allow for opportunity for individuals to ask questions. I know many contractors and other nonprofit organizations who are interested in doing this fortified roofing work for us and with us. We have been funneling everyone through this information session so that we'll know who everybody is and what they're responding to and what they're interested in. So just so you'll have a sense of what we're talking about relative to the timeline. Again, as I identified that we're focusing on the fortified roofing program and the timeline, referencing today's Housing Trust Advisory Committee update, our public listening session, which is scheduled for May 29th, 2026. We are allowing ourselves this opportunity to get some public comment, review, and make our internal program revisions. Our goal is to finalize documents and anticipated program launch, which would be solicitation. All of that would be early to mid-July. And if there are limited comments, we could even release that as early as the end of June. We recognize this is a new program we'll be standing up, also recognizing there's a subset that this advisory committee will ultimately be recommending and moving forward with that we'll have to tweak to make that a subset of what we issue at that. So that was new news to us, but we'll work through whatever it is that we have. I also got to recognize is that while we're setting these programs up, initiating this interest and doing that, what we want to do, make certain is that once we launch, we know that funds will be in hand shortly, and that the tightrope that we walk as implementers is wanting to make certain that when we launch, we have this pent-up work and workload and folks wanting to do this. We want to do that successfully. And in order to do that, we're going to have to meet to make certain we got funds in hand.
Can I ask a quick question about that, Ms. Brenda?
Yeah.
When you say launch...
Issue solicitation.
Right, so that's when people will start replying to the solicitation, and so then there's a certain amount of time that they get to reply, and then there's a certain amount of time that you get to review, and so before funds go out the door, we're talking another, how long?
It could be another 30 to 45 days max. But again, I got to have funds in hands, guys, so that if I launch and I execute a contract with somebody, they want to make certain that they are known that they're going to get paid, and I want to make sure that they get paid. And so that's why timing of all this is real critical. Not only while we're developing and putting it together, we've got pent-up demand, but we also need to make certain that we can fulfill our commitment. There are, and so the sale of the bonds and the receipt of the bonds proceeds are really critical for our implementation.
Right. Just to be clear, though, if you put out the solicitation and assuming everything goes as planned, we have the bonds in hand, and people respond to it, and then for some reason something happens and you know those funds aren't in hand, like you aren't really on the hook until you sign a contract with them. Is that right?
I'm not until I'm on signing a contract, and the contract, whatever it is, that will be agreement once even I execute it, will be subject to receipt of funds.
Right. Okay.
And so, I guess I'm trying to paint some reality into some reality checks in this, guys, as we're having this public discussion about. We spent lots of time talking about which one of the buckets those funds and resources would go into, which I greatly appreciate. Now, at this point, we're getting closer to the rubber meeting the road, and that meaning that we would need to have dollars in hand to be able to implement and do those programs, to have the fortified roofs done, to have all of those other programs that this advisory council has put forth and want us to implement. That's the only part I want to stress.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really important. And I don't want y'all, I mean, I think we've said before that, like, we want to get this right? So, like, I don't want to rush you to the point that we miss something and we don't get something right. But what I've also just heard you say is that, like, you don't actually need dollars in hand before you put out a solicitation. You don't even need dollars in hand before you receive solicitations. And in fact, even if those dollars were to go away after you'd signed a contract, there's a clause in the contract that makes sure you're not on the hook for it.
Yeah, but I'm not signing a contract, guys, without having
Well, we
dollars.
understand
That makes sense. That makes sense, yeah.
And I think that, as I appreciate what we're also trying to do with this 1.26 million, that this is general fund money, if I'm not mistaken. The 1.26, right, Jeff, is the 1.26, is that bond also? It's all bond funding, so there's no additional anywhere. Okay, all right. Thank you.
So I guess my question, okay, so this is kind of, oh, he's not here, the rebuild guy. Okay, so you guys, I got you. I've heard this like so many times, and excuse me for maybe not knowing the proper terminology, but this in-between time. So there's a contract. We know technically, but when you decide that you're gonna sign, that you know the money's coming. Same with rebuild. But there's this like 30 days, 15 days. No one's actually talking about a day amount. And I think that's where my question is for my understanding, right? And it's not that it has to go this way every time, but let's say if we were able to put it in the trust fund and make it a policy demand, and in the future it looks this way, you'll have 2 weeks and you'll know you have 2 weeks, or rebuild will have 30 days. And it's different. I don't know, is it different for different people? Is it the same for everybody? I don't know, and that's kind of where my question I'm concluding my question.
I think the short answer is it depends on the program. When we're talking about a development timeline, there are several steps that are involved with getting a project ready to break ground. And so in that instance, the trust fund dollars are just one piece of the puzzle. In an instance where, for example, if Finance New Orleans is making a loan to an individual homebuyer, from the time that an applicant submits their underwriting application to approval, it can be very short.
What's the shortest we could get it? Because that's kind of what we all want, right? I know. That the shortest time that meaning that like they get the money as soon as possible.
Right. Well, right. And so in that scenario, because the turnaround is quick, because the expectation of the money being available is quick, it's the only source of subsidy going to a person, we would want there to be funds available for, when we make that application available. This is a hypothetical based on a current program that we have independent of the Housing Trust Fund. But point being, there are some programs that have a more extended development timeline in which, we have some time for the project to get ready before they need the funds. But we don't want to be in a situation where we're making promises to individuals where, a home sale or...
So, for example, the listening session that we have now, and I appreciate you guys explaining this out loud to me in front of everybody, because that's all I was going to ask them on the side anyway, is in moving forward, if there's a policy recommendation, like about this part with the timeline that we can help, could you all maybe say that out loud and at some point on record, so that way we could have that and be able to maneuver when we're discussing and making policy as well. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Bro.
All right. And the other piece was just the next steps. I apologize. Oh no, you were ahead. I was behind. All right. We're also anticipating on conducting additional listening sessions. So for each of our programs that we are going to be launching, we're going to conduct listening sessions. We recognize that the homeownership program is going to not take as long because that's a current program we are doing. I do want to respect my development partners and ask them to give feedback, because I know they got something they either have vocalized or intend on vocalizing. So I want to give them an opportunity to do that. That's real small. That program is already one that we currently implement. Standing up of that will not take as long as this new roofing program and the fortified roofing program.
And what's the AMI on that program, Brenda? Because someone asked, because we talked about the...
Did you look? I don't want to misstate what the Housing Trust
on the roofing program.
Well, we just voted on it. We said it would be whatever Nora already has.
On the homeownership program, it's 100% AMI. Yeah.
100%. Did you say? Thank you.
100. Nicole, it's 100% AMI.
Thank you.
All right, and so we anticipate on some timing of that and having that listening session early July. We also anticipate on having completed that and be able to jumpstart our homeownership piece in August, to be able to implement that and solicit folks to participate in that. And then subsequent to that, then we'll have our rollout of our other program, which will be the small multifamily program. That one takes, I have staff now in the background helping to develop the framework of that. That's somewhat new to us, so hence why it's the last coming up. We also picked the fortified roofing program because that's where the large amount of pent-up demand is, and will certainly have immediate impact on the inventory and impact on families. And as you all have heard, all the discussions previously as to what's really needed out there. I turn to my partner at Finance New Orleans to see if they want to add anything.
I'll just ask Ms. Brewer before you conclude. I know we heard some comments also about the small developer program and how accessible it is for small and emerging developers, et cetera. Can you just briefly share how that program is open to?
That program, I'm glad you raised that, Ms. Lee. That program will be open to all developers. The focal point was to try to take care of small multifamily properties, and recognition that small multifamily properties are owned by either mom and pops or owned by small developers, whether they're emerging developers or not. That's what the ownership is. And so it's an effort to be able to address the issues with bringing those properties back into commerce and or providing any additional rehab. They also, the give and take with that is an opportunity to provide for more rental opportunities at the same time. So it's really one that has a double impact with that, but it will be open for everyone. I had an opportunity, Finance New Orleans and New Orleans Redevelopment Authority had an opportunity to participate about 2 weeks ago in a listening session that was pulled together by Andronika and her organization, whereby we were talking to emerging developers who talked about how they wanted to participate in the program. We shared with them that we'd have a listening session on that. We were just asked to come to hear some of the comments relative to barriers, challenges, and those kinds of things. And to that extent, we were happy to participate, but it will be an open call for that listening session, just as we're doing all the others.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you. So Finance New Orleans' two programs are the Fortified Roof, the Flexible Fortified Roof program through us, which received $1 million, and the Small Multifamily Developer program. So Ms. Brenda just spoke to their small multifamily rehab program. We will be administering a program to subsidize development of small multifamily developments with under 4 units. So very excited about the progress that we're making on both. It's been really wonderful to be collaborating with Nora and the city as we think through the best way to put these programs together. So we are actively designing our programs in both of those buckets. Now, I think the timeline that Ms. Brenda laid out for Fortified is very aligned with our timeline for implementation as well. So that would be having program documents and pending that funds are available, the availability for folks to apply to our funding programs in mid-July. For the small multifamily development program, we are hoping to have some broad outlines of the program to share in June with interested and relevant parties. Very similarly, that will not be a set in stone or dried ink plan, but one in which we are going to be soliciting feedback. And then the goal is to have these applications available to developers to apply by August. So moving on a similarly aggressive timeline with the hope of being able to make awards in quarter 3.
All right. Any questions from the committee members?
I have quick for both, and thank y'all. Just in terms of, and I appreciate that y'all will be putting, it sounds like, program development up for public comment and for review. Can y'all, one, where will that be? And then two, what are you expecting that you will be posting? Or like what is included? Is that like just general, or is that gonna have like, the deed restrictions? What do y'all expect?
It'll be those relevant part that folks will need to know. One, if they're responding to it, it'll provide for a more detailed framework of what they can expect. And if they've got feedback or comments to it, allow an opportunity for them to give us feedback and or ask more questions so that when we developed an issue, once we issue it, it would have at least at a minimum gotten those questions and comments and either incorporated them in the programs and in the program development or not. But we would have at least heard them to know what it is. And we'll be posting that and putting that on our website. And thank you, you were getting to that. Putting them on our website, and if we have it available through the Housing Trust Fund website, we'll be able to post that as well. We have been coordinating. Go ahead, Sydney.
No.
We have been coordinating with our partners at FNO as to what that website could look like, some of the other real pieces to put in that and to share that with our city partners. So we've had our own internal IT people helping to develop the framework of what that website could look like and share that and ship that over to the city and then incorporate that as to what it could be. There's certain things that we believe that ought to be included.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm excited about for that website is something that Liz has been helping us put together, a library, an online library of all of the relevant documents so they can live in one place. And to some of the comments that were made earlier, it is challenging to, we acknowledge it. I have this challenge also. It is hard to locate the exact report that was published on Granicus on the day of the meeting. So the goal is to have all of that information consolidated, and then as the years go on, there will be a library of the historic documents as well. The only thing I wanted to add to your question is any guidelines or criteria that were published in the advisory committee's recommendations from last year will flow through all of our documents, anything public facing, as well as the loan documents and contracts themselves. So yes, you should definitely expect his continuity on any communication about what's expected if someone is applying for these funds, as far as their housing regulations, the deed restricted affordability, etc.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, you heard my question. It's getting to the enforcement part, or thinking way down the road. So much appreciated.
All right. Any other questions for Nora or FNO Tasia?
I have a comment. I'm really grateful. I think on one of the slides you had, it looked like where people can sign up. There's like an Eventbrite or something. So I'm going to highlight that for everybody, and I want this to be on record. not only, you know, you guys mentioned the social media and the website page, but there's an Eventbrite because this is like an event that's happening. So I'm grateful for that. I hope that maybe we could make ours on Eventbrite next or something. I want to take some notes for the Housing Trust. I'm going to make one myself. I'm going to just tell you that. So I look forward to seeing y'all again. That's all.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? We have public comments for Nora and FNO.
Ms. Paula Pete.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Paula Pete with Family Resources of New Orleans, and I'm also working with the Community of Faith, which is church-based developers who want to get into housing on land that they own. Our churches want to participate in that. My question is, Brenda, you know a lot of these guys don't go to websites, especially our builders who are excellent builders. Can you put something in the Times-Picayune and the paper requesting proposals for builders to participate in the program? And have you already selected builders since we've been working through this for such a long time?
To answer your second question, we have not selected anyone.
Okay.
So everybody, it's full transparency.
That's awesome.
We want everybody starting at the same level playing field. What we, when we issue the solicitation, we can certainly add it to the New Orleans agenda, which touches everybody.
Okay.
Certainly to do that, I can certainly see if we put it in the Advocate. I don't have a problem with doing that once we issue the solicitation.
What about the churches that have bulletins, maybe some of those? I can take it to my church and
If
put it in there.
there's any other mechanism or way that we need to be able to share that information, if there's flyers or whatever, we can certainly send that to organizations if they want to share that with their community. If there are other places that the Redevelopment Authority, and I'm certain for Finance New Orleans, if they need to be, we'll be there.
Okay, I want to make sure that the 5 councilmatic districts have representation in families to participate in these programs, and that one target area is not getting the bulk of the projects. And anything the housing counseling agencies can do, we've done it with the Federal Home Loan Bank and getting people qualified to participate in the roof program.
Yeah.
So those are my major questions. Thank you.
And one of the things that we have added to our homeownership program is we require that they go through first-time home buyers training. What we're also doing is have added that to pay for that for those who complete the training and ultimately close on the purchase.
All right, thank you.
Our next public speaker is Daisy LeGroux.
My name is Daisy LeGroux with Housing NOLA. I have another point of clarity. Can you guys provide me with a clear, simple update on where we stand with the CEAs? Specifically, has the mayor received and signed the CEA? Have both joint administrators received and signed the CEA? And what is the advisory committee board doing to ensure that the CEA's full execution is being realized?
We just got all the documents that we need, I believe. So I am learning how to use BRASS.
Okay.
We are going to get all of those submitted shortly. Then I believe it goes to Nora and Finance before it goes to the mayor for signature, but that is like currently in the process right now. So hopefully it'll be pretty soon.
And will that be a part of the upcoming council meetings when the mayor signs it, or it all just kind of will
It's
flow?
already passed by the council, so she can just go ahead and sign it when it's ready for her.
But both joint administrators have to sign it first, and then it goes to her. Okay, thank you.
All right.
And Morgan Clevenger.
Thank you. I could not hear most of what you said. I'm sorry. So a few questions. What is the dollar amount for each of the programs that were just discussed?
I can do that. homeownership construction subsidy from NORA, or that NORA is running, is roughly $2,054,000. Owner-occupied roof rehab for NORA was $3,054,000, but now just got increased by about $600,000.
So it's over 4 mil is?
Not quite, no, it's just under 4.
Okay.
The flexible fortified roof rehab for FNO is $1 million. And then the small multifamily construction subsidy that FNO is running is $3.4 million.
Okay.
And then the last one is the small rental rehab program that NORA is running, which is $2.9 million. That's in addition to another $5 million that the City Office of Community Development has put toward that program.
And say the name of that program again, please.
Small rental rehab, so that is for small landlords.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And so the next question is the listening sessions. I took a picture of that, but it's not really clear. Are these for community, or is it just for developers and contractors?
It's an open meeting.
Okay, so when you talk about stakeholders, you know, we know that the Office of Community Engagement is connected to many, many organizations, neighborhood associations and other community organizations, and that's a great opportunity to get this information out. And we really, really push that.
Okay. Community is actually represented rather than
That's fine.
and my question is, what happens if the bond funds are not secured? And second question to that, is 2% of the city budget dedicated to housing trust fund, and what is that?
Yes, 2% is dedicated to the Housing Trust Fund. This current, in 2026, that amount is $15.994 million, of which I believe it's 13.5. So about 800,000 of that goes to the rainy day fund. 1.5 or 6 million goes to admin costs, which are going to be passed through. That doesn't just go to the administrators here. Some of that does get passed through to the actual developers and contractors. And then 13.6 million is program funds. That's the money that goes out to all the different programs I just mentioned.
And so the first question was, what happens if bond funds fail?
That's what I mean.
That's not going to happen. So we're going to bond sale in June, and we'll get the money in. The money will be due in probably mid-July, because we've got a 30-day clock after we get the bond funds in June.
Okay. Only because in all this discussion, if the bond.
Yeah, we're going to get it in June, and they'll get it in July.
And so just for clarity, the bond funds are separate from the 2% of the city budget?
It's the amount that's 2%. So the language is the housing trust fund is an amount equal to 2% of the general fund, and so this 16-ish million is 2% of the general fund. But it's coming from bonds. But the amount is dictated by the general fund, if that makes sense. Okay.
And the last thing I want to say on this is that again, our seniors are the most vulnerable population in the city right now. And if we are not doing what we can, we're about to go into hurricane season. So we're talking about schedules that are in July and August and September. What's going to happen if we have a major hurricane this year? And you know, one thing, flooding is one thing, but when you lose a hurricane, is everything. So I really urge you guys to support the homeowners and make sure this thing moves. All right?
Thank you. All right.
Last, Ms. Aquanetta.
I want to say this is the best program that the community has ever had to help the program, because when you go to agencies now, they could be funded. There's really really, there's no funding, so they can't help you. So this is the best program. But what I want to ask about, and hopefully that is a truthful program, and people who are concerned about the community will be supporting the community as well to get these funds out to us. Now, I want to know, now I have a flat roof because I'm on Occupy. Now, one time they could not fortify flat roof. Someone said they can. I'm trying to figure out, because like me, it's tossed down. Most flat roof is tossed down. So it takes a certain roofer to be able to do a flat roof. So I want to know, can a flat roof be fortified, and there are selected contractors that can only be able to do, because like I said, it's touched down. It's torched down with the tar, and we don't want to start a fire on our property. So that's all I want to know, ask you as well. Is there a fortified roof for program for flat roof? Can it be done as a fortified roof?
I'm not gonna speculate on that, but that's my homework assignment. We've already done our research on what the fortified requirements are and the type of roofing that they require, and the pitching and the IBHS certification that's needed along with that. But Ms. Aquanetta, I will do that follow-up research for you. I will do the follow-up research for you to get your specific question answered.
We don't know the answer, so instead of saying yes or no, Ms. Bro's going to follow up and get the answer. Understood. All right, folks. We've heard our updates. There's no action on the updates. It was for information. Thank you, Ms. Bro. Thank you, Ms. Chavez.
Thank you.
All right, we got one more item. This is our last item.
Well, no, we got to vote now, right?
Yes, we do. It's our thing. All right, so now we've heard our updates. We have actually already voted on our 1.6 million in new revenue. Our last item is our last item for our action is to vote on the resolution that was put forward, where we already have a motion and we already have a second, and we'd heard the vote until we'd heard our updates. Are we ready to take a vote on the resolution? All right. All those in favor of the resolution that had been proposed to us, that was presented by the administration at our last meeting, for the use of Housing Trust Fund resources in this year and next year, well, really for 2027, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Thank you all so very much. Our last item is, we've alluded all around it, and we have an official update on our HTF website.
Cool, thank you. And thank you, Brenda and Sydney, for being here too and talking about that. I think it's going to be very helpful and useful for folks. So one thing first, just to clarify, there's going to be kind of two websites that people can go to, and one is through the council website, and that is the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee page. And so,
excuse me, guys, this is really important. I would really appreciate it if you guys kind of hold your chatter for a second. Don't leave. I want you to hear this, really important, okay? So I need you guys to listen. This is the website information. Don't say we didn't tell y'all. Liz is saying it right now.
Anyway, so there's going to be two different web pages. One of them is through the council website. That's the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee's page. That's where we will have, like we do now, the agenda, the opportunity for the public comment forms online. And soon, when this new website is up, we will link to this new website coming, which will be the Housing Trust Fund page on the city's website. So not the council, but the city. The Housing Trust Fund page will have more information It will include a dashboard on how the funds are being used. It will include the quarterly updates that come from Nora, Finance, and our committee. It will include, like Sydney mentioned, a document library. So if you're looking for the CEA, if you're looking for the budget and implementation plan, if you're looking for meeting minutes and things like that, there will be an icon where you can kind of go through those different documents, so they're all in one place and hopefully a little bit more accessible than they are now. And for this page as well, it will be very clear ways to apply for the funds, whether it be for homeowners, for developers, for landlords. There will be a link that will kind of go to the dashboard and reporting, and then we'll have important dates on that site as well. So upcoming Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee meetings, deadlines for applications, deadlines for comment, and that kind of thing. And we're hoping just to have a very user-friendly and clear website so that people kind of know where to go. They know how to navigate the website pretty easily. They can easily access the dashboard and the documents. So Nora and Finance have been doing a lot of work on that in the last several months. They have brought in someone on the city's IT side to start working on it as well. So we'll hopefully soon have kind of some approved sort of mock-ups of what it may look like, so that folks can see it too. So maybe next meeting, if we've got that ready, I could put it up on the screen. But if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to attempt to answer them with the caveat that I have been into 2 meetings about this.
Well, I just want to thank Liz and also offer some, hopefully, reassurance to the crowd that you have someone who is taking point on this who previously worked in a district council office and has spent plenty of time navigating constituents through the intricacies and nonsense that sometimes is our city website. And so I'm really grateful that she is the one who's going to be sort of making sure that this is as user-friendly as possible.
All right. Any other kudos? Thank you so much for your work on it. Indeed. Any questions for Liz here from the committee members? We've got one comment.
Comment from Morgan Clevenger.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate this because engaging the community and making sure that the burden is not always on the community to find the information, to participate, because people get discouraged. They don't want to put all their time, free time, coming down here, paying for parking, paying for gas, and not understand what the process is and know how to engage in it. I will say that I ask you, this committee, as I'm asking our council, the current council website and city website, particularly around meetings, has a flaw, and that flaw is when a meeting is canceled or postponed or rescheduled, it completely disappears from the website. So people come down here for the meeting because the last time they looked, it was on the website. Now, I've done this 6 times this year. So I ask you guys, you say, as the council people say, oh, well, that's the IT department or whoever's running that website. But I really, really ask you to put in writing a request that any meeting that's on your agenda stays on the site and then has something that says postponed, rescheduled, canceled, so that people, before they come all the way down here, know what's going on. It doesn't just disappear. The other thing I'd like to say is, I'd like to ask, so process-wise, you all are going to make a recommendation to City Council, is that right? And what's the timeline for that?
So for 2027, we're going to make that's actually one of the next things. Yeah, why don't you finish your comment and I'll wrap that up.
Well, I mean, that's part of the question, and my comment is I need to know from a standpoint of what opportunities are there.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, and that's one of the things we were going to close out with, is give y'all a timeline for the future. So,
All right, thank you.
So as far as process goes, we're anticipating our next meeting being in July. We will have some more information about the bond sales and the bond money. We anticipate doing a presentation on housing needs at that meeting. That's something we've talked about and did last year and we want to do again. And start to have a discussion about our priorities for 2027. So definitely come with your ideas and thoughts about how you want how you want the city and the administrators to spend the 2027 money. We will hopefully get a date set for that soon. It'll be on the city council agenda. Totally hear you, Morgan, about making sure that there is some sort of clarity if we move or change that date or cancel it. We will then meet again in late August or early September, and that will be when we put forth our proposed budget for 2027. It is due to City Council by September 17th. At their September 17th meeting, they have to have received our proposed budget. So then they receive it on the September 17th. It means they will have a hearing on it probably at the next meeting, at the end of September, I would guess that is. I don't have the exact date with me, but that's in the council calendar. And then the way that the process works is they can either approve we've sent them and then everything's done, or they can make amendments and send it back to us. And if they send it back to us, then we have to have another meeting, and that would likely happen in the beginning of October. It has to happen quickly because everything's got to get done before the budget is finalized on December 1st. So it would have to, I believe actually the ordinance states that it has to happen within 10 days of us receiving their amended version. So then we have to meet again. We can make changes one more time, and then we send it back to the council for a second time, and then the council, again, either approves or denies or approves the previous version. And then that becomes the final budget for the Housing Trust Fund for 2027.
Yes.
The
1.26.
The 1.26 million is part of the budget for 2026. That's correct.
Has implications for
the resolution does have implications for 2027, but it is not in any way it's not binding. It's not a formal budget recommendation. It just says that this committee is in agreement with the city moving forward and releasing those bond funds to the developments that we talked about. And again, ultimately, we don't have control over that. The council does. Yes.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, and that's my whole purpose is why I
Yes, ma'am. All right. If there is no further business before this committee, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I was going to say. And thank you all so much. Thank you to the members of the public, and thanks publicly to Maxwell for helping me to navigate this first meeting, and to Tasia and all of you for your comments. All right, thanks everybody. Y'all enjoy the rest of your day.